Next week will be good. What's going on, everybody? We are. Oh gosh, this is live for 35 seconds. I hope we weren't just shooting the shit here when.
I see 8 seconds. We're good.
I hope not. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? We are back with the Club and Sub podcast, episode number 26. If you heard us screaming about the Nathaniel Wood, Casey Kenny fight privately, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, so we're back. We're going to go over tonight's this weekend's cards. Uriah Hall, Anderson Silva. Not the best card ever. Not a lot of close lines. A lot of shit here. As you guys all know by now, chalk is not my thing, but we persevere and try to find plays. So anyway, as usual, I'm your host, John Storgarian, MMA. You can find me on Twitter at MMA Fox. Tonight we got Luke at SWR_betting and Lags at Lags_the Capper. Quinn's not going to be joining us tonight. He's going to be he's on a weird work schedule right now, so he'll basically be every other week for the next couple months. And then we'll see if C stops in. I know he's got a couple bets, and I'll give them out. I'm not sure if he's going to be on or not today, though. He's been AWOL for the day, so we'll see. But yeah, and then real quick before we get started, two things as usual. I'm wearing the Squares and Sharps hat. Go over to squaresandsharps.com. Great company to give 1% of their profits away to charity. So check it out. Great merch. And Lags wearing the Squares and Sharps shirt. Fun stuff. Just a cool company to support. Cool people that work there. Cool Twitter. They have a good podcast. And then, so just a quick FYI for everybody, and I'll shout it out again at the close, but next week we are going to be trying a little experiment. Lags, are you going to be joining us? I don't know if you said you would.
Yeah, I'm down.
We're going to, for the main card of next week's card, we're going to do a little Joe Rogan-esque live stream of it. So, I have a tendency to make bets during the card as they go on. I'm sure we all do, even if we don't admit it. So you'll get to live and die with us, laugh with us, cry with us if you want. It'll be fun stuff. Or it'll be horrible, and you can just laugh at our misery. But either way, we're going to do it. It's not going to be a weekly thing, but probably for when we're all around for like fun cards, aka not like this one. We're just going to try to do that going forward. And so yeah, it's going to be fun. But anyway, we'll jump into this. I don't really want to talk about last week because another week we beat every line and then go down -5.5 units. Fun stuff. But yeah, so this card's not the best. We're going to get into it though. First fight of the night, decent one. We got Miles Johns, Kevin Natividad. I believe the current line, where are we saying? All those Bellator lines went up, so I'm lost here on best fight odds.
I got it for you, I think.
All right, what is it? Give it to me.
All right, let's see. We have Miles Johns sitting at -155 and Natividad at +135, pretty much.
Yeah. So, full disclosure, C-Bet Johns here. And I actually also like Johns a good bit, to be honest. It's kind of interesting that Natividad seems to be like the one of several dog plays that are pretty popular in the community this week. And I don't totally get it. Like, I went through his tape like pretty deep. And like he hits hard, no question about that. But beyond that, like I don't really see what else he's really better at than Johns. Johns is a much cleaner striker from what I've seen. And I've seen people talk about Natividad's wrestling, that he's a good defensive wrestler, but he didn't look very good the one time I saw him get taken down against Erwin Rivera. And he also, he's been fighting mostly bums. Like Johns is definitely the best wrestler he's faced. And so I kind of think if Johns actually decides he wants to wrestle him, he's going to be able to here. So yeah, I just don't really get the angle on Natividad here, to be honest. Everybody's pounding him down. I actually thought when I taped it that the opener, like Johns -230 or so, was about right. And, I get this cardio concerns about Johns, but the one time he really cardio jumped bad, or the two times were in fights where it was 15 minutes of straight grappling for almost the entire fight. Maybe that'll happen here. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But I kind of think Johns is better everywhere. I have no play right now, but I might make a play. I'm kind of watching, and it seems like things are going to keep coming in. Yeah, that might be according to Natividad's coach. There's nothing in the tape that suggests he's a high-level black belt. Luke, what do you got here?
So I guess like slightly a different take. I guess I'm not. I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm not necessarily like crazy on Natividad, but at the same time, I've just been very low on Miles Johns over the years. But to his credit, after actually like digging into tape and once again giving him a little bit of credit, like in his last 4, he fought Yanez, who's clearly shown to be a pretty solid prospect now. Then he fought that guy in the Contender Series. I don't think that guy was that great. But then from there, he fights Cole Smith. Once again, not a guy I'm particularly high on, but that has like just a funky style, like grinding type of style to fight, who's a black belt and, can capitalize on mistakes, does a good job of slowing fights down. So just kind of a tough guy to fight. And then he fights Mario Bautista, actually cast a nice bet on Bautista at plus 120 there. But another guy who I think is relatively underrated too. So I do think the whole strength of competition needs to be taken into consideration here. But ultimately, I guess to me, if Miles Johns isn't able to have any sort of extended wrestling success, I kind of just think this fight's roughly pick 'em. I see both guys kind of just landing shots back and forth. Both guys kind of just sit down on their shots. They're not overtly high volume. I'd classify both as kind of just blitz strikers of coming forward. So it's to me, the fight comes down to actually who's going to be the matador and who's going to be the bull. Because I think whoever decides to take the center here, I think is going to have more success. Because I don't think either guy really looks well going backwards, particularly. But I do give the wrestling edge to Miles Johns. So it's kind of one of these fights where it's, I guess, polarizing in the sense that everybody's on Natividad, and you might be able to find some value on Johns. But for me, it's just kind of a stay away that I don't want any part of. But honestly, I guess I'll slightly disagree. I don't really hate on anybody taking the shot on Natividad at like some of those early odds, like plus 160, plus 170, because I think it could be a close fight.
Yeah, fair. Lags, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of similar, bro, with Luke here. I'm not too high on Johns, and then looking into more Natividad. I was actually looking at his record earlier today. Other than Erwin Rivera and then his last fight in the Contender Series, 1-25 in his last 8 opponents. So I don't know. There's not really much to take away from that. So I don't know. I like what I've seen from John so far in the UFC, but I think similar to Luke, it's the pass for me.
All right.
I know somebody in the chat touched on MLS. I like the LAFC over 3.5. No plays though, but that would be a lean.
We move on. We got a bit of a dumpster fighter, but actually maybe a low-key contender for fight of the night. We got a Courtney Casey taking out Priscilla Cachoeira. Luke, I'll start with you here. I know you have a play. What do you got?
Yep. So first play of the night, not a play I was originally, or I should say a fight I was originally looking to target, just because I've been relatively low on Courtney Casey over the years. And,
Same.
After really doing a really deep dive into tape, at least in regards to this particular matchup, I just think it's a really, really good spot for her. Like, I mean, traditionally, a girl like Cachoeira is a girl I love in low to moderate level WMA. She's going to come forward. She's going to spam volume that looks good in the eyes of the judges. She obviously has some power, but I guess the commonality theme that I've seen from her is really in kind of that second round, early part, midway. She really starts to slow down, and she just kind of starts to follow girls and walk, essentially literally just walk around the cage, not utilize any footwork. She doesn't set anything up. And a large majority of her shots are missing. Like, she might land that big overhand right, but there's nothing after that. She doesn't throw in combinations. She's not, popping out a jab, not 1-2, not throwing leg kicks. She literally has big looping shots, and that's about it. And so going to Casey real quick, like a lot of the fights I looked at, like, I mean, the girl she's 5-7 in the UFC, but she's fought a lot of decent girls like Angela Hill, Michelle Watterson, Felice Herrig, even Cynthia Calvillo. She went 1-3 in those 4 fights, but all those fights were pretty competitive, in my opinion. Like, she showed that she has some striking chops. But it's just that, she's fighting top 15 girls that are decent and, maybe just a little bit better there. But, in regards to this matchup, like I said, to me, it's Cachoeira's going to come on strong early, but I actually do think Courtney Casey has the technical prowess in striking to, avoid a large majority of those shots. And she's a girl who has decent output too. So I actually got a play on this one, 1.5 units on Courtney Casey by decision at plus 115. I was considering just laying the chalk, but after going back through it and just looking at the numbers and stuff, she's just not a girl who's not going to attempt takedowns in a high volume. I think she only lands 0.31 takedowns over the course of 15 minutes in an 11 fight sample size. So, and Cachoeira has shown like moderately decent takedown defense too. So I can't necessarily bank on the fact that she's going to be able to get takedowns here, even though I think that probably would just be her path to least resistance if she tried to do so. but there's just nothing to really suggest that she will. So I'd rather scale my risk size down instead of laying a super chalky price and a heavy unit size bet, and just go with the most likely outcome in this spot of her just outworking Cachoeira over 15 minutes. So I think it's kind of a sneaky good play.
Yeah, I agree, Luke. Lags, what do you got here?
Yeah, I kind of have similar thoughts to Luke on this also. I haven't made a play here also, but I'm leaning towards her by decision as well. Similar to a fight we're going to touch later on the card. As long as Courtney can avoid the right hand, she's going to win this fight at a huge clip. So it's kind of all I really have on it. I don't think Cachoeira is all that good. She's probably going to get cut after this.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also have a play here. This is the first leg of a 2-unit parlay. I think I got Casey minus 260 in it, and then the line apparently dropped to like minus 210 last night while we were sleeping. I would have just hit her straight there, to be completely honest. But anyway, so like I've said this on the podcast a lot that I believe, striking fights are technically inherently high variance, and I'm always want to play big favorites in them. First of all, that more applies to men than women, but it does apply somewhat to women. But there are degrees to striking here. And like Luke, you kind of touched on it. Like, it's not just that Cachoeira gets hit a lot. Like, if she comes forward and spams volume, and if she just got hit a lot and that was her problem, I would stay away from it. It's that, like you said, she has no accuracy at all. She's stepping into the pocket. Her striking defense is only 42%. Like, that is horrible. Girls are landing clean on her, and she's only returning at 37%. Like, if she's getting hit that much, her numbers should be closer to like 45, 50% themselves, and they're not. She just basically misses most of her shots. She's there to get hit. And even though while she pressures, it's not really like, the kind of effective pressure you'll see some pressure fighters use. She can't cut off the cage. She follows people. Luana Carolina, who is pretty bad, landed 111 significant strikes against her. And so it's like, as much as I say stuff like that, you watch this. Casey's a decent striker. She won a kickboxing match with Angela Hill. Like, that's like, what do you think Angela Hill would do to Priscilla Cachoeira? Like, it's not. Casey's gonna throw in volume. She can crack a bit. She's a big girl, even for 125. How she made 115, I'll never know. And like, if you look at Casey's career, what's really been her undoing has been, being taken down. Because she gets taken down easy, and she likes to play guard. You see it in every fight. She doesn't work up. But like, let's say Cachoeira changes up her style and tries to take her down here. She's getting subbed. Like, that's like, it's not even like, I think, a low outcome. Like, I'd say it's like a 60% outcome. Like, look at what happened to her when she got on top of Molly McCann. McCann literally grabbed an arm triangle from the bottom with her on top and swept her into mount. Like, this is not, the girl has no idea what she's doing. I appreciate that Cachoeira is tough. She's an exciting fighter, but she's terrible. Like, Courtney Casey, like, yeah, Rick, you hit it. She's 9-8, but she's fought very, very stiff competition. Like, and she's been competitive with Michelle Watterson, with Angela Hill, with Cynthia Calvillo. She beat Hill. Those were all close fights. Cachoeira just nowhere near that level. I struggle to see why this would be worse than like 75, 80% Casey here. So she's the first leg of a parlay for me. I really, maybe we'll be shocked here and Cachoeira, gets another instant knockout, but I really don't think so. We move on. We got this another, I don't know how playable it is from a betting perspective, but it's a fun fight. We got Dustin Jacoby taking on Justin Ledet. Lags, you got anything here?
No play here either. Kind of was late to the line movement here, but I like what Jacoby brings to the table. He's a solid kickboxer, honestly. Good one too. He's got powerful hands, but to be honest, I think it's just a bad matchup for Ledet. I just think he doesn't push the pace enough in his fights, and that's kind of like his undoing. So I think he can easily be bullied here by Jacoby, and I think Jacoby could find a finish here, round 2, round 3, when Ledet starts slowing down a little bit from all the leg kicks. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a knockout from him, but I wouldn't see him. It wouldn't be shocked for me to see a 30-27 decision here for Jacoby. So I think Jacoby's a safe parlay piece, to be honest, and I might look into it if the line comes down a little bit, but I don't really see that happening at all.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I looked at this briefly. I actually think this is, mildly. Like, I don't think there's a ton of value on Ledet, but I actually think this could be a mildly competitive fight. At least early, leg kicks could be a big concern. But, Ledet's got a pretty nice jab. He's got decent boxing, but, you touched on it, Legs. He just doesn't put his foot down. I bet him against Cameron, and it seemed like he had every tool to wash him out there.
Yeah.
He just didn't do enough to win that fight. And, like, I kind of see the same here. I still have some concerns about Dustin Jacoby. Like, I know he's a kickboxer, but he's only had 2 MMA fights in 5 years, and they're against Cody East and Ty Flores. Like, you guys saw the Flores. Like,
yeah.
Ty Flores should probably is going to be finding a different professional living in the near future. You know, the guy should not be an MMA fighter or a professional MMA fighter at any rate. And so it's like, yeah, he looked impressive in that, but it's how much do you draw from that? Like, yes, I do think he's a better striker here. Yeah, I think the leg kicks are going to be very impactful. It's just one of those things where, you know, we haven't really seen him, you know, face, you know, much resistance, you know, since he's gotten back into it and left Glory. And I actually do think Ledet could provide some of that. And, you know, Ledet's shown okay submission grappling prior to the UFC. Like, I don't expect him to be smart and actually go for takedowns here, but you never really know. I just think there's a lot of red flags with Jacoby. Like, he should win this fight, but laying over minus 300 for him just seems like a tough ask. Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, so I've actually always been like a Justin Ledet truther. I know that might be a bit of a pun since he's a flat earth guy, but not in that sense. Like, honestly, I thought the guy had some upside when he was coming in and he was fighting in the heavyweight division. I thought that was like good for him. Like, he wasn't like a massive heavyweight by any means, but I thought that was like why he had so much success when he came in, because he was one of those, you know, 225 pound, 230 pound heavyweights where he was just faster than these guys. You know, he's one dimensional in largely what he does, but he's fast and he's got good boxing. And we saw that he went 3-0 to start out in the UFC in heavyweight. And since he's dropped down to 205, definitely fought some stiffer guys, but I never understood the move down for him. It just never made any sense to me. I thought he should have stayed at heavyweight. I thought he could definitely be a mainstay at heavyweight, not necessarily saying he's going to be a top 15 guy or anything, but I think he'd be a guy who'd be around for, you know, 5, 6, 7 years, beating lower to mid-tier guys, fringe top 15. I think his box. What's that?
Montel Mays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I guess getting to this, Matt, the issue I have with him is he's like audibly said that he doesn't feel like he needs to evolve his game at all. He's like, I'm going to come in here into an MMA fight and I'm going to box. It's like, well, all right, well, now you're fighting a pretty solid kickboxer. So it's like, are you going to check leg kicks? Probably not. Like, I just feel like I feel like Ledet's going to oblige Jacoby in the type of fight that Jacoby needs to succeed. But as you touched on too, John, like, I actually don't think his submission grappling is like that bad given like the higher level weight classes. Like, I think he showed it against Mark Godbeer, showed a decent back take, rear naked choke. Like, I think if he wanted to take it down, I think that would be his best pass, at least to just try to mix it up and do something different. But because he just goes to that boxing nature, he doesn't really kick. He doesn't utilize a whole lot of lateral movement or anything. So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like it's a spot for Jacoby to roll. So this is the first fight in my 3-0 for me over at MMA Oddsbreaker. That's dropping tomorrow. Check it out. It's honestly, yeah. Ultimately, Ledet's just been kind of frustrating to me because I think he could have more success than he's had.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, let's. So I know none of us. Well, Flags does him a fair bit, and I have one this card, but you know, I don't generally parlay much, but since this is a card filled with chalk and this is a gambling show, let's each say whether we think each of these big chalky favorites is worth being a parlay piece. What is your verdict, Flags?
Personally, I do think so. Like I said, I think Ledet doesn't put enough. He doesn't put his foot down enough in fights, and I think that if this fight does come down to a decision, I think that I think Jacoby's just gonna be landing the hardest shots. So I personally think yes.
Lag says yes. Personally, I am going to say no. I think there are some red flags here. We move on to the first of the real dumpster fires on this card.
All right, Luke. I guess Luke. What about you? The last fight.
Yeah,
Would you say?
We're gonna go.
I'm gonna say no. Honestly, just because I feel like he's going to land shots on Jacoby. I feel like it's priced a little too high, to be honest. Once again, I'm a bigger Ledet truther than most. I feel like he's going to land strikes. Like, once again, I think Jacoby wins, but out of all these chalky favorites, I don't know if that's the parlay piece I'd want.
Yeah, I agree, Luke. So we move on. We got dumpster fire here. We got Jason Witt, Cole Williams. I'm going to keep this short. I don't have a lot of opinions here. I think Witt's probably the better fighter. He's more well-rounded. Cole Williams looked pretty bad against Claudio Silva, who, in hindsight, that does not age very well after seeing the performance Silva put on against Krause. My lean's Witt, but, like, I don't know. I don't think Witt's very good. I just think he has a more complete game and has a path to victory via grappling. I don't have a huge opinion here. I'm not betting this dumpster fire. I'm picking Witt. Luke, do you have an opinion?
Yeah, nothing strong. Both Midwest guys. Actually, Williams has fought in like the regional promotion quite a bit back in Madison and even in Dubuque, kind of where I'm from. So I've tried to get a little bit of insight into both guys. Haven't really been able to find much, but yeah, as you kind of touched on, it's a bit of a dumpster fire. I think Witt is the better wrestler. Actually, both guys do come from wrestling backgrounds, but I think Witt is the better wrestler. I think he's the more fresher guy. But if he's not able to land or have a ton of success with the wrestling and takedowns, I mean, Williams has shown the willingness to go forward and throw strikes. So it could just turn into a complete slop fest if Witt really isn't able to do that. And we haven't seen a whole ton of finishing prowess from Witt even in doing so. So this is my second fight in my 3-knot for me over at MMA Oddsbreaker. Check it out, coming out tomorrow. I personally just don't think either guy is UFC caliber. I mean, both guys came into their UFC debuts on short notice as just fill-ins. To be honest, I'm not really sure why either guy got the call back, to be honest. But yeah, my pick is Witt.
Lags, how about you?
Yeah, it's a pass for me. I think both these guys are just getting their second fight after taking the short notice fight in their last fight. So pass. I think both guys aren't really UFC caliber.
All right, I agree. Nice. Next up, we got Sean Strickland making his first fight since he got in that car accident, come back to the octagon, taking on Jack Marshman. Luke, you have a play. What do you got?
Yep, so pretty big play for me here. I got 4 units on Strickland at minus 240. Definitely didn't get the best of it. Like, I guess Strickland was down around like minus 210, minus 205 at one point. Really pissed. I missed that. But then again, I thought it was just a line that was very, very mispriced. And that's not to say I'm like a big Sean Strickland guy necessarily, but in terms of this matchup, if we're looking at Marshman, I think he's just largely a KO or bust here. He's not overtly high volume. He doesn't have any offensive wrestling upside, and he really struggles on the ground. And, you know, Strickland is a brown belt. So to me, I feel like actually Sean's best path to victory here is just to wrestle, because I feel like he'll be able to get at least a decent amount of top time. He'll be able to pass his guard. Marshman's shown or has shown historically to have his guard passed easily. He'll give his back up. Strickland is a guy that will take that. But in the worst case scenario, even if this fight's on the feet, I do think Strickland just kind of picks him apart, but that does make me just a tad nervous because he is somewhat one-dimensional in that. Like, he doesn't really kick much, but he's very good in his boxing, and I think he understands range pretty well. So I just really think it's a spot for Strickland to roll. And as you touched on, like, he has largely fought at welterweight. Yep. This is going to be his first fight at middleweight. But looking at the dude's IG, he looks jacked. Like, it's not like this weight that he's putting back on is bad. Like, he looks in phenomenal shape. He was always a pretty big welterweight. Now he's 29 years old, so I'm just assuming he probably couldn't make the cut anymore. But I just think it's a really solid spot for Strickland. I outside of, you know, Marshman landing some Hail Mary. He's not winning minutes over Strickland. He's not out grappling Strickland. So literally the only reason I didn't max this was because if this fight is standing more often than I think it should be, it could slightly play closer than odds indicate if Marshman's able to land like a knockdown or two. But other than that, I think it's Strickland all day.
Yeah, agreed. Lags, what do you got here?
Yes, this is a fight I was alluding to earlier with if he avoids the right hand, he wins the fight at high clip. Well, this is pretty much it. I think that's how Strickland just needs to approach this fight. I mean, I think Marshman is essentially John Phillips 2.0. I think slightly better than him everywhere, but that's all pretty much John Phillips has, and that's all that Jack Marshman has. They both have overhand rights, and that's about it. They're pretty poor takedown defense, pretty poor submission defense. So, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything Luke said. I like Strickland there. I think he's a solid parlay piece, and I think he can dominate the fight on the feet and dominate the fight on the ground.
Yeah, agreed. Strickland closes out my 2-unit parlay with Courtney Casey. He got a minus 265 there. I mean, to be completely honest with you guys, had he not gotten into that, like, I honestly, I'm not saying –
You have good lines for sure.
Yeah, but I'm not saying I tell anybody to play at this point. But, like, I honestly still think there's value on the line as it is. Like, Had Strickland not gotten in that car accident and not had a layoff, he's probably -5 or -600 here. Like I don't think you mentioned Wags that Strickland that Marshman's kind of like a better John Phillips, and to a degree that's true, but I don't think he has close to the power John Phillips did. I think all the knockdowns came in his first UFC fight. And I think since then Marshman's kept that reputation of being this massive hitter. And I just don't personally see it. We've seen him stand with guys who are, a bit chinny and not put them out since. I just, Luke, you said if Strickland wants to wrestle here, he can, and he can probably finish him on the mat fairly easily. But even if he doesn't, Strickland's a pretty clean boxer. He beat Tom Breese at range. He actually had, he lost emphatically because everyone loses to Kamaru Usman emphatically. But he didn't have a bad performance against Kamaru Usman when he fought him either. Strickland's a legit fighter. The guy was probably on a glide path to the top 10 or 15 at 170 before he got hurt. Now, could he come back and be completely compromised? Yeah, that's certainly within the range of possible outcomes. But I just don't think this is competitive anywhere here, really. And Marshman is almost entirely KO reliant, and I'm just not sure how likely that is. So yeah, Strickland, Casey, 2 units. I actually still think he's worth it as a parlay piece. Luke, parlay piece or
no? Well, one, I'm not a big parlay guy in general. So
we're doing it for every piece, though.
At current price, I don't know. I definitely more than Jacoby for sure. But I'm just not
currently like minus 350, minus 340 right now. So I think it's a little good spot, honestly. But yeah.
Wait, Lags, you saying yes? You're giving the thumbs up?
Yeah. I'm gonna give the thumbs up too. Fuck it.
Yeah, let's go.
I was saying that earlier in the breakdown. Yeah, no, I think it's a solid spot for him to roll.
Club and sub stamp. So if you're fading the club and sub stamp, you're gonna want to bet Marshman here. But
have fun with that.
But anyway, move on. This is a fun one. Adrian Yanez making his UFC debut, taking on Victor Rodriguez. I'm a pretty big fan of Yanez. Lags, you want to start here? You have an opinion?
I actually haven't looked much into this one, to be honest. I looked a little bit into Yanez, solid boxer. I know.
You're kidding me, Lags.
And to be honest, I also missed like a good portion of the line on FanDuel. All of these huge favorites opened at a lot better lines, and we're just kind of missing the end of the line movement, to be honest. So I don't know if I'm going to get much into this. To be honest, I don't think it's super bettable with current line, but I like Yanez here.
I think you can. Yeah, I agree. I like Yanez as well. What are Lags? You got props up in front of you right now, or no?
Yeah, I got you.
What's the submission prop for Yanez?
Yanez submission is plus 1,500.
That's interesting. Yeah, so I think Rodriguez is a pretty bad grappler. I don't think he's very good in general. I think Yanez has him pretty much covered everywhere.
Yeah.
He looked really – his contender series fight was so fast, but had a competitive fight with Miles Johns and LFA. Guy looks like he's improving. Pretty slick boxing. Decent grappler. And like I said, I actually do think if he takes Rodriguez down here or this hits the mat, he might sub him. I think that's actually kind of intriguing, to be honest. But yeah, I couldn't play him at the current odds. It's another one, he's sitting at what, minus 350 right now?
Minus 355, yeah.
It's another one. It's like, I'm going to go parlay piece, but it's like, I feel, but I'll get to you in a second, Luke. Like, I feel like you could parlay most of this big chalk and it's going to hit. Like, I don't see a lot of value in the dogs this week. And you guys know how much I love to throw darts at the big dogs, but like, I just doesn't see it. Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, I really like this Yanez guy. Like, I actually wasn't too familiar with him prior to going into this. I know he had that nice performance on the Contender Series, but I don't think I taped him for that. So it's kind of like a new thing for me, kind of watching and going through all of his fights. His boxing is very good. It's really, really nice. It's beautiful, to be completely honest. But I guess the one issue, if we're talking about like a parlay piece here, is he's a little too hesitant for my liking. I feel like he could turn up the volume just a little bit. Like, trust me, like from a younger guy perspective, I like the patience that he shows. Like, he doesn't rush in or do anything like too crazy. Like, he really picks and chooses his shots well. But I think there's also times where like he could just step on the gas a little bit more. And this Rodriguez guy he's fighting, kind of a question mark. There's just not a whole lot of tape out there on him. Like, I put out a tweet yesterday, like the dude was fighting at a freaking biker rally with dudes in Hot Topic t-shirts, and there's pro wrestling fucking going on in the event too. Like, it's hard to really assess this Rodriguez guy, but I guess I don't think too highly of him. I'm pretty confident that he's being brought in to kind of do the job, to be honest, because the UFC likes this guy. They're bringing him in to lose. So, but with that being said, I don't really know if I'd put my parlay piece stamp on him necessarily, just because I don't. There's just limited footage on Rodriguez. He could come out here and outperform. Who knows? But Giannis should get it done.
Legs? Oh, I hit you already here, didn't I?
Yep, you did.
Okay. All right, so we move on. I'm going to start with you anyway, though, because you do have a play here, I believe.
Yeah, I do.
Alexander Hernandez taking on Chris Grutzmacher. Hit me with it.
Yeah, so kind of similar to what we just touched on in the last fight. I think that Grutzmacher's being in here kind of a lamb slaughter, to be honest, to Alex Hernandez. And I actually, like we touched on with the line movement earlier, I was actually able to get 3 units on Alex Hernandez at -210 when that opened to FanDuel. Yeah, I think Hernandez pretty much has this fight covered everywhere. I think that Grutzmacher is pretty slow, plotting on the feet, and he only really excels in those pocket exchanges, like guys that are keep up with the same kind of pace, like Joe Lozon after he was slowing down in that first round. I think Hernandez is going to be way too fast for him on the feet, and I think if he wanted to, I think he could take this to the mat. We've seen him struggle previously in fights against Ramos and Chas Galley. But yeah, I don't know. I think Hernandez kind of rolls everywhere here in this fight. I know even at -400, I know that's crazy to say, but I think inside the distance is probably the way to play this. I think he finds the finisher, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you. I picked up untracked a little bit, like a half unit on Hernandez submission. I know, is it still plus 1100 right now or plus?
No, and I know we were talking about it at plus 800. It's actually down to plus 500.
Okay.
Honestly, I still think that's a good prop to play if you're looking at this.
So, I pretty much agree with you, Legs, here. This is a get-right fight for Hernandez. They like him. Sure. He's got a decent personality. Honestly, he's reasonably talented. He's an athlete. He's a good athlete. He's got good movement. I just don't really think he knows. He's one of those guys. He's young, and he doesn't really know what to do with the skills he has yet. Sorry to interject real quick. I think that's why the move to Factory X is going to be a huge plus for him going forward. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the thing, right? The worst thing that ever happened to him was them giving him a short notice spot with Dariush and him knocking him out. It would have been way better if he just took an ass kicking from him and then learned. Instead, he gets projected up into a cowboy fight and gets into a kickboxing match with a guy who's a world-class kickboxer and gets the shit kicked out of him. And then he gets stuck into a kickboxing match with Drew Dober and gets the shit kicked out of him. But it's what is he learning from these beatings? That he's not on that level? Okay, we knew that mostly, even if I did bet him against Dober.
I bet Dober there.
Yeah. but my point is, I do think he's really talented. And to your point, Grutzmacher kind of stinks. The best thing you can say about the guy is he's going to come forward. He's going to pressure. Yeah, and he's tough. But Hernandez has that really good in and out movement. He's got great lateral movement. I don't think the pressure is going to be much of an issue. And I pretty much think if it ever does become an issue, he's a good enough wrestler and grappler that he can pretty much just put him down and control him whenever he wants. Basically, it's the kind of fight of Hernandez. I still have some hopes for Hernandez. And if he can't take care of business here, then I don't know. Luke, what about you?
Yeah, you guys kind of hit all my points. As you touched on, John, that Dariush fight was legitimately the worst possible thing for him. And to be honest, I think he's one of those guys who obviously I think has some skills, but at the same time, I think he thinks he's a little bit better than he actually is. Yeah. Personally, in that, I actually do think with how much this line has got bet up, I think it's starting to get a little ridiculous, to be honest. Because even in the Skelly and Ramos fights for Grutzmacher, he provided some early resistance in terms of the takedowns. It's not like he was just getting blast doubled and guys were just both of them were just completely messing him up on the mat. There was a lot of that, but it's not like it was immediate. There was resistance there. And we've seen, Hernandez not exactly securing takedowns early and often on his initial shots. Guys are stuffing him. So I think that's just a little interesting consideration for Grutzmacher, but I largely agree with you guys. I think it's a get right spot for Hernandez. I think he will be able to have wrestling success here. And we've seen Grutzmacher consistently give his back. You touched on too, John, that darting in and out nature against a relatively stationary guy. And Grutzmacher proves probably nightmares for him, despite me not thinking very highly of Hernandez's striking. Ultimately, I don't think Hernandez is a parlay piece here, though. I'll say that, but I think he should get the job done.
Did you parlay him, Legs?
Yeah, I got him at minus 210.
Okay, that's a way better. Yeah, I forgot.
I'm talking about like minus 500 or whatever the fuck he is now.
Yeah, that's viable. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Luke. I think you made some good points. Like, yeah, like you said, I remember after he beat OAB in what was a horrendous fight where I bet him, he said he's going to have the belt in under 2 years. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? You just went life and death with Olivier by Mercier. But, yeah, I hope he gets right because I do like it. We move on. We got my man, Bobby King Green, taking on Thiago Moises. As you guys all know, I faded Thiago Moises against Jalen Turner pretty heavily when that fight got made, and then it got canceled. Bobby Green is better at Jalen Turner at literally everything by a significant margin. And so, yeah, I don't know if I'd play him right now at minus 310, but I played him minus 210. I got it on him pretty heavy, to be honest. Played him for 4 units. I actually don't think the decision line. What is it? Did you
it's minus 135?
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad number. But basically, the thing is for me, it's like I get it. You know, anybody can watch tape on Moises and say, "Oh, you know, he looks technical. His takedowns look nice." But it's like that's all well and good. But what of those things does he do better than Green? Because he's not going to beat him on volume. It's not even going to be close on volume on the feet. Could he land takedowns? Yeah, but Green's got good takedown defense, and like. Maybe he'll get a back take and sub him, but even then, Green's really good when his back has been taken in the past at initiating scrambles and getting back to his feet. And so basically the argument I keep seeing is, and like I've made it about Bobby Green in the past too. Like I have always been like phobic about having money on Bobby Green because, you know, he does do things like stunt and like pose for camera shots and just kind of let rounds get away from him. But he's been fighting better lately. And even if he does that here, I just kind of think this isn't Lando Venata on the feet. This isn't Dustin Poirier. It's not Edson Barboza. It's not Rashid Magomedov. You know, those are guys that if you let them, you know, you try to like pose and let them, you know, not defend strikes with your hands up, you're going to get killed. This is not that case here. You know, he can do that all he wants here, and he's going to piece him up on the feet. For me, Moises' only path to victory is getting a back take and submitting him, really. I guess it could turn into a dirty scrambling match on the fence. But we just saw Alan Patrick, who's far better at playing that fence game than Thiago Moises is, try to do that. And instead, what ended up happening was Alan Patrick ended up on his back for about 12 minutes of that fight. And I kind of think that's what's going to happen here. You know, we saw Dariush put Moises on his back and just hold him there. And I think if Green just decides to take the path of least resistance, sorry, God, I can't speak tonight. He's going to basically do the same thing here. Like I see Green at as minus 400. I actually do think you could parlay this line. I wouldn't play it straight at this point, but yeah, I think it's Bobby Green any way he wants in this fight. Luke, how about you?
So you guys finally just you got a little Bobby Green nugget into me. You guys know I've not been a proponent of trying to lay a cent on Bobby Green, but I got a few cents on Bobby Green here. I got 1.5 units on him by decision at minus 135. Once again, I am not laying minus 300 on Bobby Green. I will never lay minus 300 on Bobby Green versus anybody. I don't care. But his decision line at minus 135, I really like. You know, Moises has never been finished his entire career, and Bobby Green has not finished a fight since 2013. So if he is able to win here, I think that's his most likely path. And as you touched on, John, it's to me is could Moises land takedowns here? Potentially, but in that, like he's not overtly high volume in doing that and attempting. There's just too much patience, I guess, in his game. Like if you told me Thiago Moises was going to be more aggressive here, even though I still think Bobby Green's the better boxer, I actually do give a little bit more credence to Moises' striking than most. But if you told me he was going to be more aggressive, I'd probably be holding off here. But we just kind of see these like lull patterns from him at times where he will be aggressive. But if guys go forward on him, it's kind of like a deer in the headlights scenario. And I just feel like that output in boxing of Bobby Green is going to give him a ton of trouble. So if Moises isn't able to land takedowns, I think he's largely reliant on, you know, either shooting something sloppy against the cage and like backpacking Green, or like a fucking rolling leg lock or something like he did to Michael Johnson, or some like fluky type shit like that. I'm not saying that's out of the question because Moises is a very good grappler. Like the dude went to OT with Richie Martinez and EBI. Like he is very, very good on the ground. So I'm not saying that's out of the question, but once again, it's about assigning percentages to how often that happens. I just don't see it. So instead of laying that big price on Bobby Green, I think him by his most likely path to victory here and the most likely outcome of the fight at just a little over 55%. I think it's a solid play.
Legs, what about you?
Yeah, so this closes out my Alex Hernandez parlay. I actually got in early on Bobby Green at minus 215. So 3 in a parlay closes out plus 115. Yeah, I mean, you guys touched on pretty much everything. I think that the problem I have with Thiago Moises is he doesn't attempt enough takedowns in fights to really want to make me bet on him, to be honest. Like he's got a good jiu-jitsu, decent on the feet, but like you guys touched on, just not active enough on the feet. So I think if he was maybe more reliant on the takedowns, that maybe I wouldn't be as heavy on Bobby Green here, but I think it's a solid matchup for him on the feet, and I think he can control him on the ground, to be honest. I don't think Moises has a great get-up game, to be honest. So I think Bobby Green all day. I think this is a parlay stamp piece for me, at least.
I will disagree with you guys there, though. I think Bobby Green should avoid the ground like the plague.
True, I do.
That's just me, though. I think he should avoid it.
This fight, it's not even like I know he gives his back, but like I said, I actually really am very confident that Green could probably scramble up with relative ease. Like, Trinaldo got on top of him and couldn't do anything there. Trinaldo's top game is pretty vicious. My concern with this fight is that everybody is on Bobby Green this week. Like, it has all the vibes of like one of those fights, like Ortega Zombie, Pedro Munoz Edgar fight, where every single person like on Bet MMA is on him. And I hate being on that side. At the same time, though, I just can't ignore like what my eyes tell me. And like you said, Luke, I think Moises got out attempted like 68-16 in round 1 against Michael Johnson and outlanded like 27-1. Like
Michael Johnson was minus 1,000 after round 1. In
right.
Fight.
They just the skill, like the output's just not there. If you go forward at all, and Green will, he just shells up and lets you hit him pretty much. Like that's the. So we'll see, but. Club and sub stamps on it. We've all got cash on it, so we'll see what happens. Next up, we got Greg Hardy taking on Maurice Green. I do have a play here. I actually played the goes the distance plus 178. Though I actually heard somebody in the chat in our group chat say that it's up to like plus 250 or something like that.
I don't know. I could take a look.
Yeah.
FanDuel's got plus 240 to go distance.
Wow. So I missed the line bet on that. Jesus. Well, anyway, I might hit it again.
I think that's the issue with Greg Hardy fights. Just people would just assume unders.
Yeah, which is weird when you think about it, because the guy like Hardy. Look, if Hardy actually comes out, like I do know Maurice Green is pretty fragile. Like he can be hurt. He definitely. I mean, Fat Volante almost finished him.
He was seconds away from finishing him.
He was seconds away from finishing him, and then had the worst finish we've ever seen. That was not fun. And that's, if you guys want to tune into the live show next week, we all bet Fat Volante during the show last time when that fight happened. So you get to live and die with us at moments like that. But anyway, so I kind of do think this. Luke, you mentioned this, and I agree with you when we were chatting about it this week. If Hardy actually decided he's going to come out like he did in Contenders and just bum rush Green and just brawl with him in the pocket, he probably finishes him pretty quickly, to be honest. But that's just not the Greg Hardy we've seen. Like what we've seen is a guy transform his game and just turn into a guy who's going to use his length and athleticism, hang out on the outside. He's going to throw kicks. He's going to throw jabs. And he's going to circle. And that's really it. And Maurice Green is a guy who wants to hang out on the outside as well and just kind of throw kicks at your knees and not really do anything. And so it's like maybe that changes because MMA's weird shit happens and two guys, they can go into the pocket and brawl with each other. But if we see the way they've both fought recently, it's probably going to be just a weird fight where Hardy's on the outside, like in the center of the octagon, trying to kick him, and Green's on the outside trying to leg kick him. And it's going to be an ugly 15-minute fight that Hardy probably wins on a split. So, like, I don't really, to me, like, I think Ghost Distance should be, like, at worst, like, evens, personally, given what we've seen from Hardy and how the power just really hasn't translated. In terms of a side, Hardy minus 300 seems a bit extreme, to be honest.
It's actually up to minus 355 now. So
yeah, that seems. I don't really. Yeah. I really don't want to bet Maurice Green, to be honest with you.
You can't. Friends don't let friends bet Maurice Green. John, don't do it, please. You can't do it.
But it's like Green's the biggest guy Hardy's fought other than Volkov. Like, couldn't you just see this turning into a mess where each guy lands like 50 to 55 strikes, and then at the end, like nobody's surprised by any ending? Like I don't know.
I don't know. Volkov's got way more power than Maurice Green though on the feet.
That's true, and better output. I just kind of think, Hardy's output's been pretty low recently, and it's like I just kind of think it's going to be really low volume standing, and it just I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, if you want to take Maurice Green by points, plus 950.
What? I'm going to probably take that, to be honest. I might just take what Hardy by points?
Plus 340.
So should I just throw my money on both of those by points? Like, it's just like,
Probably.
yeah. I don't know. If it goes like, I'm probably not gonna bet a side. But if Green goes up to like plus 350, plus 400, I'm probably gonna have to take a stab personally. Just sleep at night. Luke, how about you?
So I'm definitely on the side in the sense that Greg Hardy wins this, but pretty big contrarian take on the goes to decision. Like, because I was thinking about like the over 1.5 too. Like he was like, all right,
Same.
Hardy's went to decision, in his last 3 fights. And, I kind of look back into it. And, the Sasoli fight, obviously, definitely credence to the either over or goes to decision narrative. But all right, if you go to the Volkov fight, well, he broke his hand in that fight.
Yeah.
So therefore, he was very non-committal in that fight. You go to the Jorgen De Castro fight. De Castro broke his foot in the first round of that fight, and De Castro is non-committal in that. So that's 2 of those 3 fights that have went to decision where there's been a funky injury that has happened in there that has led to one opponent being non-committal. And I think that's really, really interesting here. So I'm not saying that, okay, well, now just because those 2 things happen, that now Greg Hardy's going to come out here and bum rush Maurice Green. I'm not necessarily saying that, but my biggest issue, if you guys have been listening to this podcast for a while, Maurice Green does not use his distance effectively at all. So even if we are seeing a more patient Greg Hardy, it only takes one big shot. Go look at the Albini fight, bro. He had Albini on the ropes. Albini throws one shot and Albini nearly finishes him. But then he recovers and then he comes back and finishes Albini. Like, the dude's striking defense is not good. So like I said, even if we don't see that bum rush Greg Hardy, I feel like one big shot, even if it doesn't like put him out cold, it wobbles him. And then Greg Hardy just pounces on him and kills him. So I'm not necessarily on the goes to decision type thing. I actually did play the hedge that we were talking about, Legs.
Oh, nice.
I played Greg
that.
Hardy round 1 KO at plus 250. And then I played the over 1.5 at minus 115 to hedge out for like a half a unit of profit. I think it's pretty safe, barring Hardy doesn't knock him out in the first 2.5 minutes of the second round, God forbid. But ultimately, I just feel like Hardy knocks his ass out.
Wait, Luke, what was the first play you said?
Hardy by KO round 1 plus 250.
Okay, it's not terrible. And the over?
Minus 115.
No, so you played the over and the Hardy KO.
Yeah, he played both.
I hedged it. Yeah.
Or Maurice Green doesn't kick him in the head. That's that too.
Now you're begging.
Legs, what do you got here?
Yeah, I don't know. Similar thoughts to Luke as usual. I like the over 1.5, but I think if Greg Hardy does come out like we've seen in the past, I think that would actually benefit him here, and I think he would look like a solid favorite. I think Maurice Green's pretty fragile, and I think that can easily be finished here by Hardy. But then, like you guys touched on, if he does want to extend this fight and make it a kickboxing fight with Maurice Green, I don't think it warrants a minus 400 favorite. And then, I don't know. It's tough. I like Greg Hardy, and I would like to say, sure, he's a parlay piece, but if I was confident that he would come out hot and ready to just finish him in the first round, then sure. But I wouldn't give the parlay piece approval here, but I think Greg Hardy wins this fight pretty confidently.
I am not giving the parlay piece approval either. I will say this: I'm more or less in the camp that I think Hardy's way better than people give him credit for. To be honest,
For sure, me too.
I said I do think the value's on Green here. Like, the guy's went from being a guy who just bum rushes people in brawls to now a guy who throws a jab, a guy who throws leg kicks. Again, his fight against De Castro, you saw him string together combinations a couple times. Like, he's added a piece every fight. And, like,
Right.
in a division of absolute dumpster fire bums, like at the bottom of it, and even in the rankings, to be honest, Hardy, he's young enough at like 33 to probably climb into the top 10, and he's probably the best athlete in that division outside of maybe Cyril Gahn. So, like, I actually do like Hardy long-term as a prospect. I think he's pretty intriguing. I don't know. This just seems extreme to me. But we'll see what happens. We move on. We got a Really fun fight here, actually. Actually, this main card is actually pretty fun, to be honest. For as bad card as it is, like betting-wise, the main card's pretty exciting. We got Mahmoud Muradov taking on Kevin Holland. Luke, did you end up pulling the trigger here? Should I start with you?
Actually, I did not, but for a personal play, I did play Muradov at the plus 3.5 points handicap at minus 200. So essentially, Mahmoud Muradov needs to win a round here. Once similar to the Nathaniel Wood fight last week, I thought that was free money, but hashtag fuck the judges who gave a 30-27 to Casey Kenny there. But ultimately, I see this being kind of a close split decision fight. I think it's also one of those fights that I think may have lured some people into the under 2.5. And I was very, very intrigued. You have two very explosive guys who are going to come forward and trade. But at the same time, it gives me like nightmares back to Omar Morales and Gabriel Benitez and a few other examples where you got two guys who are going to throw down, but have also shown a ton of durability. And you just get a war for 15 minutes where nobody goes out. So I ended up staying away from the under 2.5. But I guess ultimately my big thing is one, I've been extremely high on Muradov over the years. I think the guy has a ton of potential. In Holland, I don't think he's really fought a guy that has the potential to take it to him like a Muradov. But at the same time, on the other side of the coin, I don't think Muradov has ever fought a guy like Kevin Holland too, who also possesses that kind of ability. So it's kind of one of those tricky spots, but I definitely lean with the dog and I'm picking Muradov. I was kind of hoping that, we were going to see, everybody loves to bet Kevin Holland. Now he's kind of been around that 75% line, or I should say like 66-70% line. I was hoping we were going to get like minus 200 Kevin Holland and you were going to give me Muradov at like plus 170. I was like auto bet there. But it looks like, odds makers were somewhat smartened up and, it was a little bit down and, the public kind of also bet that down. So, for me, I do think there is value on Muradov if you got to in him on around that kind of like plus 135, plus 140 number, but not enough for me. It's one of those fights where it's high action fight. It's going to go to a fucking split. I bet Muradov, he loses the split. I'm like, well, I kind of knew that was coming type of thing. So I'd kind of like a better number around that plus 170, plus 186 to be like, all right, well, I knew that was coming. So, but picks Muradov for me.
Lex, how about you?
So I'll play a little contrarian. I do agree with Luke I do think this is going to be a close, high variance striking fight for 15 minutes. But I do think that Muradov doesn't work in combinations that well on the feet. And I do think that his cardio isn't the best. I think Kevin Holland's got him beat there. So I think that will play, benefit to Kevin here. But other than that, no, I think this is going to be a close fight. Definitely the best striker that both guys have fought. So I think it's going to be a great one for the fans, to be honest. I think it's a good one to sit back on.
Yeah. I actually played this. I played Muradov for a unit of plus 142. It's not a big play. I wouldn't even say it's like an uber confident play. I'm just really not a Kevin Holland guy, as you guys know. And I was starting to buy in. And then the Darren Stewart fight happened. And it's just like, the guy is like, he's such an idiot. And that fight is hard. It's so weird. Like, he has every skill to be great. It's just like, he can't decide whether or not he wants to follow a game plan or not, fight to fight. It's just, and in terms of like pure striking, like, he's got all those great physical attributes, but we've really never seen, even the Buckley fight. Buckley was getting into range and like bum rushing and getting into the pocket. Like it just was, it's really hard to hit a guy who knows how to move his head when he's got a 6-inch height advantage and like 7-inch reach advantage. But I don't think he uses his range particularly well, to be honest. Like, he's not much, he's got good power, he's got good output, but he's not really much of a counter striker. I guess I kind of view it as Muradov's a pretty good striker. He's pretty well-rounded, not elite. Good defensive grappler, though, so I don't really think there's much chance, even if you wanted to, Holland's going to be able to drag this to the mat. And so it's going to be really a question of, I think we're most likely going to see Muradov dancing around the outside and Holland probably holding the middle. And it is a bit of a concern because obviously that kind of size advantage that Holland has could be tough for a guy that's got to move in and out of the pocket like Muradov. But at the same time, like I said, I just don't really think Holland's a sharp enough striker at this point anyway, or a seasoned enough striker to say, this isn't Israel Adesanya who has an elite striker with a massive height and reach advantage and is going to keep you outside. It's Kevin Holland. like I think Muradov's going to come in and have his moments. I think Holland probably has his moments. I just kind of view this as basically being a 50-50 fight. Holland really hasn't shown me anything to make me think, okay, against a good striker, he should be, a 60, 70% favorite. Like, that's kind of crazy to me, So I just kind of viewed it as a 50-50. And to be honest, I think it's far more likely that, I don't really think it'll be easy for Holland to pay off his price or look like value. I'll put it that way. Whereas I think, Muradov would look like a favorite here. Like, I think his upside here, like, if Muradov just has a much cleaner fight, is a lot higher than Holland's is. Whereas, maybe Holland's physical attributes are enough here, but if they're not, he's going to be in trouble. So I think it's 50-50, bit of a mess. But, yeah, I'm going to side with Muradov. So I got a unit on him plus 142. And then we move on to a, really fun co-main event. I think, do we all have a bet here?
I do not. I did not in a Poland figure here.
Luke, you made a bet here, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll start with you. Let's go with you. Andre Fili, Bryce Mitchell.
All right, so maybe Bryce Mitchell once again adds to the list of fighters that I am consistently wrong about. Throw Casey Kenny in there, Glover Teixeira, Aljamain Sterling, whoever you want to name, guys who I've just bet against consistently and been wrong. But I'm betting against him here. I got a unit on Andre Fili at plus 135. Ultimately, the big thing for me is Bryce Mitchell has largely just fought grappling-based fighters in his last 5 fights. He has not fought a guy anywhere near the striking caliber of Andre Fili, who also possesses relatively decent defensive wrestling. And that was kind of like my big consideration going into this fight. Obviously, Bryce Mitchell is a very good grappler. I don't think his wrestling is necessarily overtly that great, but obviously if Bryce Mitchell is able to have success here and win this fight, it's going to be on the mat. So how does Andre Fili fare there? I mean, I kind of went all the way back. I did a super deep dive on Andre Fili. I went back to when, he fought Dennis Bermudez and Michael Johnson, some of these other better wrestling-based guys he's fought. And really, he's only been extensively controlled like once. Outside of that, he's even when he's been taken down in the past, once again, I'm going back like 4 or 5 years now. His wrestling, I think, or his defensive wrestling has improved extensively since then. But if I was to give any credence to Bryce Mitchell, I wanted to do my due diligence on Fili. But going back, some of these better fights when he's fighting these better wrestlers, he's holding his own. He does a really, really good job of digging underhooks and getting his hips away, or even if he is taken down, he waits for his opportunities. But like he's not too patient in the sense where he gets controlled for 2 minutes. He waits for his opportunities for guys to either try to improve position, and that's when he either sweeps or gets back to his feet. He just has a really good understanding of weight distribution essentially when on the ground, and that's when he takes his opportunity. So to me, I still think Bryce Mitchell is very, very green on the feet. I still don't feel like he's very comfortable. A guy in Andre Fili, like that's his world. He's going to have a decent size advantage. I think he's going to have more output, and I think he's going to make Bryce Mitchell pay on the feet. And even in the sense, if Bryce Mitchell is able to land takedowns here, I don't think Andre Fili is just like auto sub, because he's once again a guy who's not really going to accept it. He's shown competency on the ground, now 30 years old. He's one of these guys who's grown up in the UFC. So at plus money, I guess I'm willing to roll the proverbial dice against Bryce Mitchell again. I don't think he's that good. I just don't. I think he's pretty one-dimensional.
Lags, how about you?
So I'll give some credence here to Bryce here. The only reason why I'm staying off, I think there are improvements to be made here for Bryce Mitchell. He's moved over to University of Arkansas. He's been training with those guys wrestling, and but the knock on him I have is if fights are extended and this fight isn't going his way from the get-go, which most of his fights in the UFC have, his cardio doesn't seem to be there for him later in rounds. So I can't trust him there, and I think Fili's got solid, serviceable cardio to go all 15 minutes here. I think the only thing that's really holding me off from the Fili side is that I've seen him be controlled. His back, he's been on his back a few times, but as to Luke touched on, he knows when to get up at certain points. So I think it's whether or not how much control time can you favor for Bryce Mitchell here, and then how much damage Fili's going to be able to do on the feet. And I'm kind of leaning more towards Fili here, to be honest. I just kind of looked at this fight a little bit later, plus 125. I think there's still some solid value on Fili, but I think I'm just going to wait out. I think Bryce Mitchell possibly going to make some improvements here, and maybe against public here.
Yeah, so I played a unit on Feely plus 140 as well. Let's talk about Bryce Mitchell for a second.
Story time with John.
Story time with John. I actually think Bryce Mitchell's most impressive performance is none of the ones he gets talked about for. It's his fight with Tyler Diamond. Because Tyler Diamond, I actually still think one day he's going to be in the UFC and he's going to be a ranked fighter at 145. That I'm pretty sure of. I am a big Tyler Diamond fan, at least a fan of his potential. But anyway, he out-grappled a very good wrestler, Tyler Diamond. That was impressive. But if you look at the rest of his career, the preponderance of it, he got subbed on The Ultimate Fighter. It's not on his record because it was on The Ultimate Fighter by Brad Katona. Let's actually look at what's happened to Brad Katona. I don't mean an MMA match, but seriously, Brad Katona, who is he out-grappling in the UFC? Nobody. He tried to go to it. He's just too small and not athletic enough. But he out-grappled Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell out-grappled Charles Rosa. Now, was it impressive? Yes. But what does Charles Rosa do in every fight? He gets taken down easily, and he plays off his back, and he plays guard. Mitchell's submission game is probably too good to get subbed from someone off their back. And so a guy who's just going to let him move on top of him and pass at will, he's going to dominate. What's his name? Dennis Seaver passed Rosa's guard 15 times in their fight. So, again, contextualize it. Is it that impressive that Bryce Mitchell took him down 3 times and dominated on top? I mean, it's impressive, but only to a point when you understand that the guy gets passed around more than a hooker. And then,
sorry, John, I was just thinking, as soon as you said that, I was thinking you were going to go to the Joey Diaz, Joe Rogan. Oh, Dennis Seaver. I'm sorry, that's all I had.
And then, too, everybody I think gets hard about that fight because everybody loved Matt Sales. But if you actually tape on Matt Sales, every time Matt Sales got taken down in his career, he got his back taken. He got his back taken and almost finished by Kyle Nelson, not Kyle Allen. By Kyle Nelson. And so Mitchell, the twister's incredibly impressive. But again, you're giving a guy that's going to do exactly what he wants you to do as soon as you take him down. And it's you actually look at his technique. His wrestling's okay, but he doesn't set up his shots particularly well. His entries aren't particularly fast. He's big for the division, but I'm not sure he's bigger than Feely is. Whereas Feely, he's got good takedown defense. Not elite, but good takedown defense. And while I have concerns about Feely getting stuck on his back, he did against Yusuf, no question about it.
Yeah.
Was it Hakron Diaz he fought? He worked up a few times, but he could be a little patient and give away position of time on the mat. And so that's a concern. But I'm not worried about Mitchell taking Feely down 4 or 5 times. I don't think that's going to happen. He might get him down a couple times if that's possible. The question is though, can he sub Feely? And it's it's possible he can sub Feely, but is it likely? I don't think so. Feely's pretty positionally responsible on the mat. And then it's can he do enough to offset what Feely does on the feet? And to me, that's the big thing. It's I see a lot of people talking about can Feely keep it standing? It's it's less can he keep it standing than can he keep it long enough to do enough damage to out Mitchell does on the mat. Because I don't think he's going to give his back up to Mitchell here. And so if Mitchell can't get him, and Mitchell doesn't really throw ground strikes. So if Mitchell, isn't, is holding him down for entire rounds, Feely's going to absolutely light him up on the feet. And so whatever Mitchell does on the ground is going to have to outweigh that, or he's going to have to hold him down long enough. And you brought it up, Legs. But, Mitchell's a notorious gasser. He gassed really bad against Bobby Offit. He gassed really bad against Tyler Diamond. Anytime he's seeing really any resistance, he's gassed pretty hard. And so it's I kind of think Feely's going to win round 3 at a fairly high clip. And I think the first 2 rounds, again, it's going to come down to that. And we've seen it a lot recently, with judges kind of prioritizing damage on the feet more than ground time, especially if the ground time comes early in the round. I don't know, man. I kind of think Feely should be a favorite here. It's a huge – I think Z mentioned in the comments, but it's a massive step up in class. Andre Feely, whatever else you want to say, the guy's a top 15 featherweight in a great division. We haven't seen Mitchell face anybody close to anybody at that level yet. And so, it's a fun fight. I just kind of feel I have to play Feely here. It just doesn't make a lot of sense that Mitchell's this big of a favorite. It's been impressive what he's done, but this guy's not the next Khabib guy. Sorry, nor is he the next to Nehemiah. So yeah, you're going to get the Club and Sub stamp of approval there as well. We're all rolling with Andre Feely here. We move on. Main event of the evening. We're going to go with Uriah Hall, Anderson Silva. I don't have a play here, at least not as of yet. But so it's funny. Do you remember earlier in the week I messaged you guys and I was like, I have moderate interest in Silva here. And then I thought about it some more, and I thought about it some more. And I sent you guys a message last night, and I was like, there's a chance there might be serious value in Uriah Hall in this fight. And then I sat there, and I woke up this morning, and I'm like, if I was convinced that I was going to bet Anderson Silva on Sunday, and then on Wednesday or Tuesday night, I thought there was great value in Uriah Hall, I should probably stay away, which is what I'm probably going to do. But basically, I think the line's probably right. Maybe should be a little bit wider. The thing is, Silva, obviously, any other time, 3 years ago, 42-year-old Anderson Silva, I would play in the spot at this number against Uriah Hall pretty much without blinking. He's 45, though, and now we're at the point of really no return where it's like one of these fights, he is going to be gone. It's just going to be completely gone. His durability looks like it's already going. You know, we saw him get hurt in the Cannonier fight. You know, his output's falling off a cliff, and even his defense now, you know, it's still good, which is shocking at his age, but even that's starting to go. So it's like he's just completely not trustworthy. I don't trust any aspect of his game. But then on the other side, you have Hall, and it's like Uriah Hall really, like, it's almost like he needs guys to take the fight to him. You know, he's still very, very KO reliant fight to fight. Like, easy to forget after he looked so good against Shoeface, but Bevan Lewis was putting it the fuck on him for 12 minutes before he got knocked out in Lewis's first fight in the UFC. And it's just like we see that he gets outlanded just about every fight. He's also a guy who gets lured into staring contests. And so it's like I have this fear about playing Uriah Hall that what would happen is you're going to have 25 minutes of them staring at each other, and the judges are going to just not know what to do, and Silva's just going to take a close decision. So, yeah, I don't really see a great angle on the fight. That said, I do think if Hall decides, I'm going to bite down on the mouthpiece, I'm going to go forward, I'm going to force a brawl, I think he probably finishes Silva at some point, or at least outvolumes him and wins the fight. Like, I think he's got a very I think he's got a very, very, very clear win condition here. It's like if Paul wants it enough and just realizes, oh, Silva can't really hurt me like he used to at 45 years old, I'm going to go forward and fuck him up. He's going to win the fight at a very high clip. Frankly, if he just throws leg kicks at him, he could probably win the fight at a very high clip. But it's Uriah Hall. The guy's a perennial underachiever. I just don't have, much interest. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, last fight, my 3.5 for me over at MMA Oddsbreaker. You want to talk about variance. I think this is the spot. I think you can make a very solid case for Uriah Hall looking minus 500 here. Yeah. I think you can make a solid case for Anderson Silva looking, 50, 60% potentially. Like it's crazy because both guys, like you said, are not like overtly high volume. I said this in my actually in my 3 for me next week, but like if you gave me like a prime Uriah Hall and a prime Anderson Silva, I'm not saying Uriah Hall would be I'm saying, but there'd be so much more intrigue in that or whatever, where both guys are a little bit more committal in what they're doing, but both guys have been historically non-committal. Like even if you go back like all the years to when Anderson Silva was the GOAT, he's still not a guy who's out here landing 6 significant strikes per minute. Both guys are these guys who like to set traps for guys and they wait for their moments and they capitalize on it. They do. This is not for anyone, Luke. What is he talking about?
3 for like 3 not for me.
Not for anyone.
Oh, okay.
So it's not for anyone.
Yeah. Over my head. Yeah, ultimately, I just don't know how you can lay minus 220 on a guy like Uriah Hall because, as you touched on, John, he's a guy who's going to sit back and wait, and he's largely KO reliant. He's not a guy who's out here winning minutes. Once again, we talk about this all this time on this podcast. You're going to bet a guy straight. You need to have some amount of confidence that he's going to win minutes, especially at minus 220 if you're laying that price. If not, play the prop. If you're betting Silva, he's 45 years old. Let's be honest, with all due respect, shell of himself. I think that is the classic definition of a dart throw. You are hoping for just a shitty, grinding, staring contest type of fight and hoping Anderson Silva comes through. Maybe it looks super sharp, but ultimately, if there is a fight to not put your money on or touch with a 10-foot pole, it's this one.
Let me ask you something, Luke. Is there a line, like just hypothetically?
God.
That you would
I know where you're going with this.
That you would play Silva at?
Is there a line I would play Silva at? All right, well, I guess what is he running? He's plus 190 right now.
Yeah.
I'd play him at plus 300.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I was thinking plus 275 myself.
Lags, break it down. Go to us.
Not much to add, I guess, other than these guys pretty much hate dog fights, like those grimy, grindy type of fights. But this isn't going to be anything like that. This is going to be. I don't hate it. It's a retirement fight. I don't hate it. But yeah, personally, I just think these guys are going to give each other that type of fight that each other is going to want. So that I think it's going to be like we touched on, a good fan fight. But I don't think it's a good betting fight. And I know Joe Rogan brought it up good when Adesanya was fighting him, and he said that Izzy just needs to make him work more, make Silva work more on the feet. Yeah. And that's true here. I think the same thing with Uriah Hall. If Uriah Hall bites down on the mouthpiece and is able to just work more, this decision win is going to look like cake to him. So,
but you can't trust him to do that.
If Uriah Hall,
I can't. No, I can't, because he's consistently inconsistent. I know Lock of the Night touched on that in his podcast, and that's true. I think both of these guys, to be honest.
If Hall sent me a message and told me he was going to attempt 200 strikes in 5 rounds, I'd put like my house on it. But that's not good. You're right. He's consistently inconsistent. I don't.
And that's my issue with the under 4.5 too, because I could see this easily squeaking over the 4.5. But if Hall bites down on the mouthpiece, I could easily see this under 4.5, or we could see a Silva leg injury for the third time.
Or if one guy just clips the other dude.
Yeah.
Both guys have that ability to do it.
Right. That ability though. Like, when was he knocked anybody down?
Well, yeah, more so on the Hall side, I guess. I mean, Anderson Silva hasn't done that in like nearly a decade. So,
I feel like is a fight that's more unwatchable than like Jessica Cynthia Calvillo's. Like, it's just a really horrible fight where 100 total strikes get thrown and everybody's asleep by the time the fight ends. Like, that's what an Anderson Silva win looks like.
I think it's just going to be a staring contest, to be honest. I think it's going to be a boring fight. We'll see.
I agree. The rest of the main card is more interesting, to be honest. Do you guys have any Bellator picks you want to hit before we get out of here?
I do not. I know they touched about that in the chat a little bit. If you got anything for Mousasi Lima.
Luke?
I do not.
No, I haven't done any sort of deep dive into tape, but I think Taylor Johnson is a little interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
He just actually went down to -135 on BetOnline. Ty Gorder as a dog, he actually opened as a favorite, and that completely flipped. Him at +120 is somewhat intriguing to me. Veda Ortega actually opened as a dog +140. That completely flipped.
Yeah,
she's a favorite, so I'm curious to see where that line moves, because I think Veda might have some value, but we'll see. I need a tape.
Yeah, agree. I got to do some work on this tonight. My leans Mousasi are probably not a bet, to be honest. In terms of plays that I think are interesting, and again, I'm with Luke. I got to tape it as well. Ortega, same. I think Brandon Gertz, the big dog, is kind of weird. I think that fight should be pretty close. It was pre-tape. And then, other than that, Taylor Johnson, same way. I love Taylor Johnson. Cashed him very nicely against what's his face, Ed Ruth. And then also, if you guys want to just take a flyer out there, just blind fade Jack Hager, because he's fucking awful and he's -600 right now. That's it. Aziz on Lima +157. All right. I'm gonna look at that.
I like that line.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's more. Hey, it's better than it's weird. I kind of have the same vibe as what was it, Nemkov and Bader, and I bet Bader there, where it was like everything in my head tells me Bader should win this fight, except one guy's young and hungry, and the other guy's old and trust young and hungry guy. But yeah, I have to look at it. Anyway, so yeah, that's it for this week. We'll be back next Wednesday at 9. Quinn will be back. C should be back. Go holler at C and tell him to get his shit together and stop getting lost in Chicago on Wednesday nights. But yeah, anyway, so next Wednesday we'll be back, and next Saturday night, main card, we will all be live. We'll be streaming it. I'll post a link, watching it together, throwing picks out there, losing money, maybe winning money. It'll be fun, going over live bets. Be pretty
taking
drunk.
Shots.
Yeah, we're gonna be fireball shots for winners. It's gonna be a good time. So
chugging lattes, probably.
Push lattes. Maybe Luke would do fireball if he gets enough love from. If Luke gets enough views on his article.
Yeah. What if you guys want me to sit there and chug fireball? Ship me over a shipment of Tums. That's what I want. I just send me a box of Tums, and I will do that on the stream.
All right. Anyway, so that'll do it for us this week. As usual, I'm your host, John Stargarian, MMA. You can find me on Twitter at MMA Fox with your other host, Luke, at SWR_betting. You can also find him at SWRMMA.com and Lags at Lags_the Capper. Posts all his plays for both soccer and UFC on his Twitter. So Check it out, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks for coming out.